we take the empirical points you were making, then I think people shouldn't espouse religious views either, because there's plenty empirical evidence about how that has been taken to extremes and used to great detriment of humanity.
Well, I won't address that. Let me. There was a question that you wanted to ask.
Yes,
me.
well, I think you have fundamentally answered it. Basically, my question was to you was going to be, what are you afraid of in terms of the utilitarian consequences of David's argument? So, if I'm clear, you are afraid that people will use that argument to cause harm.
Well, it's no, I wouldn't say that. I am concerned about that. I don't think that's my fundamental objection. My fundamental objection is that the doctrine is deeply nihilistic and anti-human, and that it is precisely the sort of doctrine that undermines the kind of faith in being that it's necessary for people to manifest in order for them to live forthrightly and nobly and properly in the world. And I think it's terribly dangerous in that regard. And I don't think that David has done a decent job at all of addressing the fundamental objection to the antinatalist argument, which is the idea that being is somehow flawed beyond redemption, let's say, which I think is the fundamental answer. There are modes of being that redeem being, and the mode of being that redeems being is voluntary heroism in the face of tragedy and malevolence, and that lifts up being and ennobles it. And even if that's not the mode of action that characterizes most people, it's a potential mode of action, and it's the mode of action that is the proper move forward towards redemption rather than the cessation of being itself. And I would say that's the fundamental religious conundrum that's plagued mankind since the beginning of time. Life is suffering and rife with malevolence. What do you do about that? Well, one answer is cease to exist or cease existence itself. The other is to heroically confront the problem of being and to lift up the tragedy of the world on your shoulders and to move forward in a courageous manner and to redeem being as a consequence of your actions. And I think and it's not a matter of educating people to do that. It's not some manipulation of the manner in which they view the world. It's the freeing of the part of their spirit that's so powerful and so strong that it can withstand the tragedy of being and its malevolence without suffering beyond their capacity and without becoming corrupt. And I would also say that that's the core idea that underlies Western civilization itself, which is that the individual, say, made in the image of God, has sufficient intrinsic nobility of spirit to withstand the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune and to prevail. And that that's a positive good, not a mere medication for an intolerable disease. And the fact that what would you say, I oppose the antinatalist position is because I think it's pessimistic, fatalistic, and fundamentally existentially cowardly, because it doesn't, and it's anti-human in that it denies the fact that the human spirit has the capacity to grapple with being, even given clear apprehension of all its intrinsic horrors. So I think it's a terribly dangerous position, and I think it leads to nothing but terrible outcomes, despite David's claims that anyone who takes this argument to any terrible conclusion is misunderstanding it. I don't think they're misunderstanding it at all.
Okay.
In Faust, for example, in Goethe's Faust, the character Mephistopheles essentially makes an antinatalist argument. He says that the conditions of being are so unbearable that it would be better if being never existed at all. And Goethe outlines the consequences of Mephistopheles' position, and they're dreadful. He's Satan himself, essentially, in the Faust story. And so I think David's disavowal of the negative consequences of the antinatalist position are convenient for him to retain some belief in the ethics of the position, but bear no relationship whatsoever to how the philosophy will manifest itself in the real world.
Okay. that may be a point. David does. Dave, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but you do agree that your view is pessimistic. I don't know about the cowardly part. Do you want to respond to that in more of a closing type of statement? Because I think
yes, let me make
Jordan
a
has given quite a lengthy statement there in rebuttal.
Let me make a conciliatory comment by way of conclusion. So I do think that my position is a pessimistic one, although I don't think unduly pessimistic. It's certainly not a nihilistic position. It's based on very fundamental moral values. And all I hope that if it's my pessimism that needs to be tested, or Jordan's optimism, I hope that it's my pessimism that's tested.
Okay, that's...
So what that means is that rather than the terrible things befalling him that would cure him of his view, I hope that good things befall me to try to cure me of mine.
All right.
Yes, I hope that too. I hope that too. I truly do. I truly do.
A child, it would have a very severe genetic abnormality that would mean that the child would have a life of suffering, even a short life of suffering, let's say 5 years, and then die. Now, do you think that conceiving that child would be offering it an opportunity or doing something wrong?
Well, I would say in a situation like that, and this is the problem with philosophical discussions of that sort, is the devil is specifically in the details. And I tend not to answer. Like, I'm not willing to play that particular argumentative game.